Hey everybody, hi. We're here today now to talk about the bones, the Teresa Halbach's bones that were pretty obviously planted at the Avery property. After you see this video, you'll, I think, see what I mean. It's really ridiculous. There's a lot of really weird things going on around these bones. Just strange, funny business that's just going on anyway. The bones were found on November 8th. And I kind of intend to go through all of these strange things and try to bring some more clarity to it, because it's difficult. I had to go through the CASO files, I had to go through trial transcripts, and I had to go through some newspaper articles to get all of this information together. So do me a favor and try to pay attention. It's quite a few documents, so we just, I'll make it digestible for you. So anyway, this first clip that I'm going to show you is it's a deputy report of the original arrest of Stephen in 1985. It's the arrest party that goes out to arrest him for the rape and attempted murder of Patty Burnson. The very interesting thing here that I want you to kind of take note of is that one of the officers here is named Michael Bushman. Okay, that name is important. Michael Bushman. He is there with Ken Peterson on that day to arrest Stephen for that crime. So just beware that Michael Bushman on the original arrest party in 1985 with Ken Peterson to bring SA in. So here it comes. Here you go. All right. So this is the document that basically shows you Ken Peterson and a group of deputies went to arrest Stephen for the attempted murder and rape of Patty Burnson. And in this piece of paperwork, you see there the name Michael Bushman. He's one of the deputies that was there with Peterson that day to arrest Stephen, on those charges, which he ended up being exonerated for. So anyways, that's what this little document was about, just to get you familiar with who Michael Bushman is and why he is important. So, okay, now we fast forward 20 years, and Bushman is a retired deputy. He's volunteering to help search for Teresa, and very soon, on the day of, very early on the day of November 7th, he finds a strange patch of earth. It looks weird. It's discolored. The dirt there looks different than the dirt around it. Okay, so he calls attention to it, and essentially, it's out on the western edge of the Avery. I mean, it's kind of just way the heck away from anything really, out in this western, about half a mile from the western edge of the Avery property. So I mean, it's out away from anything where anything's happening. So he calls attention, so Bushman calls attention to this piece of strange earth, which he calls an excavation site. And soon it gets a heck of a lot of attention. This is Dettering's report. Okay, so this here is just a report from Dettering where he says Wiegert called him out to go check out this potential site on the west edge of the Avery property. He gets there, he meets with Michael Bushman, who, is calling attention to it. Eventually, they end up calling crime scene tech Ertl out to process it. And that's about it. Okay, this next clip that I'm going to show you is crime scene investigator Ertl basically explaining how he and his team were called away from the burn barrels over at Calumet County Sheriff's Department, where they were sifting the burn barrels, that they were called away from the burn barrels to go out and investigate what he continuously refers to as a rotten stump. It's kind of funny the way he does it, but you can tell this guy didn't care much for the way this investigation was going, because he just says a lot of things that sound like he's just not in sync with the law enforcement in this case, which might explain why they are keeping him at Calumet County sheriff's department, sifting through barrels there, or bringing him out to the property, but sending him out to some distant edge of the property where he, can't possibly get in their way with what, they're doing. I don't know. Anyway, it just seems that way because, I mean, this is your head crime scene tech. Why is he not, more present? Anyways, I don't know. So they get called away from, like I said, Calumet County where they're sifting burn barrels to get called out to this, western edge of the Avery property to check out a rotten stump. Okay, this is just a report about how crime scene tech Ertl and his team were sifting barrels over at Calumet County. Then they took lunch. They finished burn barrel 4, took lunch. After lunch, we're starting in on burn barrel 2 when they got the call that they needed to go over to the Avery property because essentially Michael Bushman had found this patch of strange earth, that he believed was an excavation site. So that's what this is basically. So the facts of how it went down, how they were called out there. So that's it. Okay, so now even though Ertl clearly feels it's a waste of time, he has to spend pretty much the rest of the day almost there working on excavating this rotten stump. They get out of there. They end up leaving the Avery property pretty late. They go back to Calumet County and they start sifting burn barrels for about an hour or so. Anyway, and then they have to come back the next day to start sifting the burn barrels again. So here's the clip, or here's the document of that. Okay, this is just essentially Ertl explaining the time that it took to deal with this whole stump thing. He talks about he gets there, then they had to get permission from the owners, or they had to get permission to be able to search it or whatever. Anyways, from the property owners, which would be the Averys. I don't know. Anyways, so and basically they spent a couple hours digging it all up, and he talks about all the things that they pulled out of it. Basically it was just an old tree, an old stump or whatever that was just, putrefying or whatever, just totally just decomposing. So and he spends the better part of the day there. He's there till pretty darn late, and gets back late. Okay, this next clip I'm going to show you is basically a clip that shows it refers to Ertl and his team being at Calumet County Sheriff's Department sifting burn barrels. They finish burn barrel 4. They take lunch. After lunch, they start sifting burn barrel 2. But it's very soon after their lunch that they get called away over to the Avery property to go check out the rotten stump. This is at basically around lunchtime on November 7th. They get called away from the burn barrels so that they can go to this western edge of the Avery property where this spot of strange earth is, this excavation site as Michael Bushman deemed it. And while they are making their way to the Avery property, getting their stuff together and making their way out to go to the Avery property, Calumet County deputies are loading burn barrel 4, which has already been cleared. It's already been sifted and cleared, and they're loading it on a trailer to head back to the Avery property. Interesting. Okay, this just goes over the fact that they were sifting the burn barrels, they were interrupted or whatever, and that at that point, burn barrel 4, which had been cleared and was done, gets loaded onto a trailer and goes heading back to the Avery property for some. Okay, so we basically end up with this wild goose chase that sends lead crime scene tech Ertl and his team, out to that western edge of the Avery property for that what Michael Bushman deemed an excavation site. While this is happening, deputies are loading burn barrel 4 onto a trailer, and it's going back to the Avery property. Okay. The next day, on 11/8 in the morning, when Ertl and his team come back, they finish sifting burn barrels 2, 1, 1, 2, and 3. They were on 2 when they left for the Avery property after lunch on the 7th. So they finished 2, and then they do 1 and 3. After that, Deputy Hawkins calls Ken Kratz to ask about keeping the burn barrels, and then to which Kratz responds, yes, all of the burn barrels from the Avery property will be held in Calumet County Sheriff's long-term storage. And then he also calls for burn barrel 4 to be brought back from the Avery property. Ken Kratz knows that burn barrel 4 went to the Avery property, and he's making the point to call for it back. So he wants it all locked up in Calumet County's long-term storage. I'm sure so nobody can get at it. Anyway, so the question is he's asking for burn barrel 4 to be brought back, but why was it ever sent in the first place back to the Avery property? $1 million question. Okay, so here it's just talking about Deputy Hawkins comes and observes Earl and his team doing the burn barrels. Then he also says he calls Ken Kratz to ask about keeping the burn barrels, which at that point Kratz asks for burn barrel 4 to be brought back from the Avery property. So, interesting. Okay, so there we have Kratz personally calling for burn barrel 4 to be brought back from the Avery property. Now, it's my opinion that burn barrel 4 is a very important burn barrel. It's very important after it's been sifted. It's a very, very, very interesting burn barrel. This is the barrel, I believe, that they used to plant the bones at Avery Salvage. It's my opinion that they found that like the RAV4, they found these bones or cremains or whatever somewhere else, and that these things had to be moved onto the Avery property. The RAV4, they get there November 4th. Before Pam Stern finds it. But the bones were different. The bones had to be somewhere close to Stephen's residence. They had to get it, in there pretty far, not just, inside a gate over on the western edge of the Avery property. These had to get near somewhere to be incriminating. So what I think here is that they had those bones at Calumet. Earl and his team get called away on November 7th, just after lunch, when they're in the process of sifting burn barrel 2. Okay, they get called away. I think at that point, this burn barrel 4 is being loaded onto a trailer to go back to the Avery property. At that point, somebody dumps some of the cremains into 2. That explains how the human cremains were found in burn barrel 2. And I believe the rest of it was all put into burn barrel 4, which was on its way back to Avery property for some inexplicable reason. Okay, so this is what I think they did. They put the rest of those bones in burn barrel 4 because burn barrel 4 was already cleared. It wasn't going to be getting checked out or anything anymore. So it was, basically nobody was going to be probably looking in there. So the burn barrel 4 then gets taken out to the Avery property. It's my opinion that on the night of the 7th, under cover of darkness, somebody, just one person in the know, easily goes over, grabs that barrel, tips it into the burn pit, and plants the bones there, maybe kicks a little dust over them, so that the bones look a little bit covered, so it doesn't look like somebody just came and dumped them there. But yeah, I mean, this is highly plausible. Why is burn barrel 4 going back? It doesn't make any sense. So this bit here, we're going to find, this is where, the bone expert Leslie Eisenberg tells us that it was burn barrel 2 that the cremains were found in. Okay, this is trial testimony of Leslie Eisenberg, essentially stating that burn barrel 2 was the burn barrel that had human cremains in it. So, just wanted to show you that. Okay, so now we move on to about 2 o'clock on November 8th. The Lieutenant Sipple and Yost have decided that they want to go check out the burn pit area, and now the big bad dog is gone, right? Preventing a search of that area, right? Yeah. Anyways, are you serious? Are we seriously supposed to believe that one dog, no matter how ferocious, one dog held up this investigation? I don't understand how Kratz and these people can say these things with a straight face. It's just ridiculous. It's a dog. Okay? Put on something thick on your arm in case he bites you. Get it handled. I mean, you guys, listen, Calumet, Manitowoc County Sheriff's, you sound ridiculous when you say things like this. Absolutely ridiculous. In case you didn't know, you do. Okay, just saying. Anyway, then there's the odd thing that Sipple says in his report. Okay, first of all, Sipple finds the bones, and he says he recognized the bones because as a kid his parents owned a butcher shop and they used to burn the bones out back, or whatever and stuff to get rid of them, for refuse and stuff like that. They would burn them and stuff. So he had an interest in that, I guess, as a kid and looked at the bones that had been burned as a kid. So this somehow qualified him that when he found these pieces of bone around the fire pit, he was able to immediately discern that they were, burned bones. Anyways, so the thing is he then goes on to start commenting about the fact that the crime scene looks untampered. Why is he talking about that? I mean, that doesn't make sense. You just found the bones there. Why are you going that extra step to talk about how the crime scene looks untampered? I mean, did you find the first bone and go, oh, wow, I wonder if this was planted? And then look around and go, oh, no, this is a totally untampered crime scene. I mean, it just doesn't make sense that he's even talking about that. It's just like, anyways. So it's just another one of the very strange things that kind of is going on around these bones, Okay, so here we have Sipple and Yost deducing that now that the big bad dog is gone, right? The horrible dog that nobody could deal with, right? I mean, it's just a dog, for crud's sake. Anyways, now that dog's gone, they can go over and take a look at the burn pit area. It's ridiculous. The dog is an excuse. The dog is a freaking excuse for why they haven't already found it there in the previous, days of this search. I mean, so it's just stupid. I mean, I could have probably taken care of that dog myself without any help. And yet they had numerous deputies, numerous people there to help. And yeah, it's just ridiculous. This next document just shows that at 16:30 hours on the 8th, burn barrel 4 and also the cell phone barrel were brought back. Okay. So now we're going to move on to some of the other suspicious things going on around these bones here. You just saw Lieutenant Sipple proclaiming that the crime scene looked totally untampered. Okay, well, we'll get to that in a second. Crime scene tech Ertl definitely has something to say about that. But before we do that, we're going to talk about the coroner, the Manitowoc County Sheriff's coroner, who, if you looked at that newspaper clip that I just put up there, she was number one, not told about the bones being found. Number two, she found out about it on the news. Number three, when she tried to go down to the crime scene, she was barred from the crime scene by Ken Peterson and at least a couple other highly ranking officials. This is very strange because the coroner's department was literally the only department of Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department that didn't have a conflict of interest with Stevens' 1985 wrongful conviction. So it doesn't make any damn sense that they're trying to bar the one department of Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department that wouldn't have a conflict of interest. But yet they opened the freaking door and let in every other department that did have a conflict of interest. So anyways, that's strange there. So, but coming back to crime scene investigator Ertl and the Sipple's statement that this crime scene was looked like it was not totally untampered with. Well, at one point during the trial, I think Fassbender ends up sending an email to Ertl asking him why there was no photographs taken of the crime scene and the bones. To which crime scene tech Ertl responds, We do not take pictures of crime scenes that are obviously tampered with. I think those are going to be the immortal words, or among some of the immortal phrases that emerge from this case when it's all said and done. You know, amongst others, there's plenty actually with this case. But yeah, we do not take pictures of crime scenes that are obviously tampered with. This document shows where, you know, the Fassbender asks Ertl about the photographs, and also it shows that Ken Peterson and two high-ranking public officials blocked the coroner from being able to take part at all in this investigation. Highly, highly suspicious, if you ask me. Okay, now I'm going to show you two different property lists from the CASO files. This first one I'm going to show you, I want to point out that we will see a property tag of 8315 for the RAV4 license plate and only 3 burn barrels listed. Okay, which is interesting because there's 4. But so here's this clip for you to take a look at. This document just shows the RAV4 license plate having a tag of 8315, and we only see 3 burn barrels listed. So that's the importance of this particular document. Okay, so now this list I'm about to show you differs from the first list. It lists all 4 burn barrels, and it lists the RAV4 license plate, only this time the RAV4 license plate is not 8315. Burn barrel 1 is 8315. It's this lack of precision with the evidence that is really concerning, especially with this case, because, I mean, it's already enough of a train wreck without, you know, a bunch of evidence typos. But anyway, so we see here that, you know, also we're going to see here, I'm going to put up a clip for you of Leslie Eisenberg, the bone expert at trial, basically saying that the contents of burn barrel 2, when she was, you know, going over the contents of burn barrel 2, that they were tagged with a property tag of 7964, which is vastly different from the CASO report. Well, it turns out that not only did they took the contents of the burn barrel and then they put that in a property tag. Then, I guess sometime before the bones got to Leslie Eisenberg, somebody went in and took out, I guess, any bone matter from that bag and put it into another bag and then issued it a new property tag. Why wouldn't you just send the contents of the burn barrel to her? She's the bone expert, right? Anyways, so it seems like there's some kind of, possibly some game of misdirection where they're just trying to change the property tags on these things enough that they're hard to follow, because it was hard to track that down. Okay, this is just the proper property tag list where it has the proper things. The 8315 is now burn barrel 1. The license plate has another number, and we now see all 4 burn barrels. This next thing is going to be Eisenberg at trial talking about that the tag for the burn barrel was 7964. Okay, so what we know now is we know that the CSI techs were not brought in immediately when the bones were found. In fact, how does he put it? By the time that they were contacted to bring sifting equipment. That's what Ertl said about being called to the burn pit. That by the time they were being called and asked to bring sifting equipment, that the scene was apparently very, very much blown up. People were all over it. It was, you know. So we also have the coroner being barred, the one department of the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department that had no conflict of interest being barred from the investigation. Draw your own conclusions there. And then we have basically Leslie Eisenberg on the stand here, claiming that no kind of qualified bone person, no kind of anthropologist or anything like that was ever called in to help with the excavation of the bones. Thoughtless. Just totally thoughtless. Or they just didn't want a person like that there calling attention to all the strange things and why the bones seem odd and why they they didn't want anybody there to be able to suggest that the bones had been dumped instead of the bones lying as if a person was burned there. So that's my opinion anyway, because why would you not want to bring in the people that are going to make your case stronger? Guys? Yeah, right. So here we go. This is a clip of Leslie Eisenberg at trial testifying that no anthropologist or any kind of qualified professional was ever brought in to help with the excavation. This is the bone expert's testimony, basically saying that no kind of professional anthropologist or professional bone expert was brought in to help excavate the bones. All right, so that's basically all of it there. That's, all the documents there, all the information that, all the odd things. So I'll let you guys maybe draw your own conclusions if you like. But for me, to sum it up, we start out with Michael Bushman, the retired deputy that was on the original arrest party of Stephen back in 1985 for the for the rape and attempted murder of Patty Burnson, who basically calls attention to this kind of odd patch of earth on the western edge of the Avery property, calls it an excavation site, and this gets crime scene tech Ertl and his team called out there. So the interesting thing is that it's at that very moment that he gets called out there because of that they had just finished, the crime scene techs had just finished lunch and they were actually in the process of sifting Burn Barrel 2. It was basically out because they were working on it. Burn Barrel 4 was out because Burn Barrel 4 was already done. They'd already sifted Burn Barrel 4 and Burn Barrel 4 was clear. Why in the hell it was headed back to the Avery property is beyond me. Other than the explanation that it was carrying the cremains back to the property so that they could pin this on Stephen. So, and then once that barrel is on site, under the cover of darkness, somebody in the know can take that barrel, dump it around the burn pit and whatever, kick a little dust over it, bones planted. So that's my opinion anyway. So you also got the other weird things like, why is the coroner barred? Why are they barring the coroner? It doesn't make any sense. Like I said, the one department of Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department that had no conflict of interest because they were not involved in Stephen's 1985 wrongful conviction, for that rape and attempted murder. So it makes absolutely zero sense that Ken Peterson and two highly ranked public officials are barring her. It's just another fishy thing. Also, why wasn't crime scene tech Ertl and his team notified immediately that from the moment Sipple found a bone, when he found that piece of spinal column bone or whatever, immediately they should have been calling for their crime scene technician? Why weren't they? Why did they end up waiting and then calling them and asking them for sifting equipment? Like, we don't really need you, but could you bring us the sifting equipment? Are you kidding? This is your crime scene tech. This is the guy that's supposed to do this stuff so that it gets collected properly so the evidence does present the way it's supposed to in court. The only reason that explains why they wouldn't do it is because they knew that they wouldn't be able to, establish their narrative if these other people came in and documented what was actually going on. Their narrative would have been impossible, I think, in my opinion. So, then you got, Ken Kratz. Ken Kratz asking for the Burn Barrel 4 to be brought back from the Avery property. To me, it's, number one, he knows that it went to the Avery property. And number two, he's actually making a point to ask for it to come back and be stored in Calumet long-term storage where basically nobody can get at it. Right? Yeah, so that's, fishy as well. So then you got the property tags. The property tags just, they are changing the property tags so much. There's typos and errors in the CASO report regarding these property tags. But then on top of those typos and errors, then you have this game of musical bags of the bones and the debris from these burn barrels getting separated into different bags, to where it almost becomes impossible to follow all of these things. You know, there's so many different links in the chain that it seems like they were deliberately trying to, you know, make it very difficult to get through and find out what happened where, and, you know, and so anyways, just my opinion. Then you've got the Fassbender, you know, contacting crime scene tech Ertl, asking why no pictures were taken. And Ertl basically has to tell him, you get the impression that Fassbender, being, you know, an investigator for the Department of Justice, would have an idea of why Ertl didn't take pictures. But Ertl tells him, because by the time we were called for sifting equipment, you know, it was clear that the scene had already been tampered with, seriously. So we don't take pictures of crime scenes that are obviously tampered with. I mean, I almost think it's embarrassing that Fassbender had to email Ertl to ask that, you know, but whatever. You know, then, I mean, once again, barring the coroner, doesn't make sense. It's, you know, so when you add it all up, there's just it's not right. There's just something not, it doesn't wash. All these things are weird. They're strange. It's not the way that this would normally go. You think about them not bringing in any kind of a bone expert or somebody who knows about bones or anything like that, like an anthropologist or anything like that. They didn't bring anything like that. Nobody in when they were trying to reclaim these bones. The reason why is because they didn't want anybody there who could offer a professional opinion, who could differ with their narrative. Honestly, that's my opinion, and it really is. It seems to be the solution that fits for everything, that brings all of these things together, you know. So if you think about it, I don't know if you guys have seen, but I have another video that is about Brendan Dassey and his February 27th and March 1st interviews, where I also discuss about law enforcement potentially planting evidence in the RAV4, a bandaid. I'm basically at the point where I think there was nothing that was too much for these guys. They were willing to pull out all the stops on this, because it just seems like nothing is out of bounds. I'll let you guys go ahead and go take a look at that video. I'll even leave the link for it down in the information below the video here. But if you're on my channel already, it's a simple matter of just clicking on my channel and then scrolling down through my videos, and it's down there. It's called Brendan Dassey and did LE plant a Band-Aid in the RAV4. So it's worth a look. It's another kind of thing of where you see this kind of clear evidence tampering or planting and just things not right. But anyway, there's basically just no limit to the corruption here. I mean, it just goes on and on, you know. So anyways, so I'd just like to ask anybody, if you found this video informative and helpful or anything, or if you liked it, you know, I would ask you to please hit subscribe down below. You know, it's just one thing you can do for a YouTuber that doesn't cost you anything if you like them, and it really helps them out a lot. So I just want to say, you know, thank you for watching, and we will see you guys again soon.